fork drawer.
Maybe has that accident.
Accident?
Right by the stop sign. Open when I come through, but
That's better for me.
those that want to get through.
You wanna move the,
Is it a stoplight? Did I grab it?
Are you interested in going to the luncheon?
You're just taking a beer to the stop.
I do too.
hey, 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 hey.
I guess I should read it. I guess I should. Yes. Well, I can now that I know. I can email them.
Yeah, take your coat off, stay a while.
It was so cold in my office today. Yeah, it's all.
I knew it was gonna be cold in here, I wear a sweater.
Just a note regarding public comments. If you would like to speak to the county board during the public comment time, you must fill out a registration slip that are on the table up in front here and turn it into the county board chair prior to the start of the meeting. Registration slips are located at the front of the room. Please keep in mind that the county board will not be able to respond to your comments or ask you any questions. Your comments are informational only. If further action is required, your comments, concerns will be directed to the appropriate department or committee.
Oh, gosh.
Is it 7 o'clock?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Sheriff County Board of Supervisors. And Melanie will take roll call.
Mrs. Krentz.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Tim is absent. Mr. Piaski.
Here.
Mr. Eckstein.
Here.
Mr. Weddy.
Here.
Mrs. Collada.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Wadle.
Here.
Mr. Crawford.
Here.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yep.
Okay, now it's time for silent prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, public comments. First, we have one for Jennifer Miller. Please.
Hello, everybody. I was asked kind of in a roundabout way to come and kind of to give you guys my viewpoint of what it was like to be involved in calling 911 and not being able to get help over the phone during an emergency. I work at the hospital in Wild Rose, and after the incident happened, which I'll talk about a little bit, I mentioned something to Dawn Schumann, who, just because I work with her, my concern about the whole situation, and was informed that there is no help over the phone, mostly through my call. I found this out as well, for us here in Waushara County, and that was concerning to me. Last December, my husband was putting gasoline on a burn barrel, which wasn't very smart, but anyway, led to a gas can exploding. He was engulfed in flames. My son was home with me, who was 6 years old. So when I go around the house and see him in flames and go out to help him, get the clothes off of him, nearly burn myself, I call the ambulance and ask, first get some help on the way. I knew that it was a bad situation because it was over 50% of his body, his face, his head, his neck, his chest, his legs. I'd asked her, what can I do for his burns? I knew they were 2nd and 3rd degree, and I've had training in first aid. I work in a hospital, but in those moments of not being able to pull it all together, she said to me, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we're not trained to tell you what to do." And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of strange. She asked if I could stand, if she wanted me to be on the phone with her, and I said, no, that's okay. I hung up. And after getting him attention, going to Madison, sitting in UW hospital, wondering if he was going to live for the next 3 days, I had a lot of time to think about that situation and how it was horrible for me, but also for those people that I see every day in the hospital. I mean, I see ambulances come in over and over, and I think to myself, you know, how can this be? So my big thing is just urging that, it's my understanding that I met with Tim Rosine last January. He said that the board had been addressed about the funding for the program to have cue cards and to train the dispatchers. He had talked to me, I think, January, February last year, said it would be implemented this year, and now I'm hearing things that it's going to be delayed. So it's concerning, and if I can share my story to save, you know, what I went through and what my son went through for someone else, I feel it's worth to come here. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. John Piaski.
John Piaski, Town of Warren. I'm here to speak with regard to the chargeback for the county clerk for the election fees. I spoke at the last board meeting. Since then, I've scheduled a Towns Association meeting, and that's Monday night, so I don't have an opportunity to poll the entire County Towns Association. I was at the state meeting yesterday. I polled the 12 board members. None of the 12 counties that those board members represent charge back. I was given the impression last month that most of the counties do. Well, 12 of 72 don't. I didn't get a chance to poll any others. Now, my concern is that we came up with a different set of numbers this time. Before, we were sitting at 18,650. We came down to 14,000 for 4 election and 6,900 for a 2-election year. Add those two together, and there's too much of a discrepancy in here. A couple other points, because I've only got 3 minutes. A statement was made by the clerk that, would you expect the county highway department to pave municipal roads for free? Well, I'm sorry, the county clerk's office doesn't give us road aids. The state of Wisconsin does, and we have to pave our roads with road aids. We are very limited to what we can pave. We don't have money coming from the state to run elections. We run elections for the county. All of you supervisors, all of you elected officials have to be elected from our elections. Can we charge you back for that portion of our elections? This is an additional cost for us. And we're getting billed for these ballots. I mean, for what little we're saving, I think we could do something different in the county to pick up $6,000 or $12,000 or $14,000 in a year's time, rather than putting this fee over to all the municipalities. The electorate, whether you put it on your county tax roll or the town tax roll, it's got to go on a tax roll to pay this money. It's much easier to put $14,000 on your tax roll to cover this election cost if this is indeed a problem. If it is a real problem and these monies are collected, I would definitely want to see the clerk's office monies reduced by that fee in the year that it was collected. And this basically is kicking the can down the road. We are not solving the real problem. The real problem is the state of Wisconsin and the federal government mandating, and you can only kick it down to the taxpayer. We can't put a toll booth up and charge the people to come in and vote. So we've got to put it on our tax rolls, and we're limited to 3% increase a year at the whim of the state legislature. Our road costs are going up 10 to 15% a year. Our monies all go in trying to plow the roads, maintain the roads, and that type of thing. We don't have any big municipal budget. Our town works on a very frugal salary, and when you think about it, it's just something that I think, as a means of saving some money for the county budget, this is the wrong place to go. If you'd really like a volunteer to come into the courthouse and start cleaning, I think I could find a lot of places that I could cover up that many costs, and it might hurt. But let's face it, I think a vote from you to go this route and make the county clerk charge all the municipalities for the elections is about as low as the board can get. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Jerry Lutrop, is that correct? Thank you.
Good evening. Jerry Luchuk, the clerk from the town of Aurora. I also want to speak on the election funding issue. Perhaps I want to take a little different view of it than John did. I feel like he does that we do not have the resources or the ability to pass this charge on to anyone else. We're the bottom of the barrel. However, when Melanie researched this and everything's out there that a lot of counties are charging back. I would ask you, because some of you spoke last time, that we have to work with the towns. Take this figure that Melanie's got. It's been researched to a good degree at this point. And if you truly want to work with us, let's split the costs. Thank you.
Now Melanie Stake will address the board.
I just wanted to read into the record a couple of good comments that I've had from clerks that are appreciating what my office does and realizes that it is not our responsibility but their own, and they're appreciative of our services. The first one is from the village of Plainfield, who has supported us since day one with this issue. This is from Brenda Black from the village of Plainfield. She's the village of Plainfield clerk treasurer. Melanie, thank you for the update on the election costs. We, both our village president, John Zowski, and myself, are grateful for the work that you and Sarah, my deputy, do for us each election. We are more than happy to pay these fees to the county, even if it means that we have to raise our budget line item for this. We feel that the county has incurred these costs for us since 2006, and now we should be willing to step up to the plate and pay for these costs. Just thought you should know how we feel about this. Thank you again to you and Sarah for all your hard work during these elections. Brenda. This one is from Julia Staler, clerk of the town of Richford. Waushara County Board. Dear Chair Collada, as a town clerk who has worked with Melanie Stake for the past 8 years on municipal elections, I cannot say enough about Melanie's knowledge of and dedication to the election process. Melanie and her office play a vital role in the success of my own township's election process. The past 2 years have proved especially challenging due to the numerous changes in election law. Melanie has supported me throughout these changes, and her support is highly valued. With the addition of Sarah to the office, I have even more appreciation for the partnership we have formed. Melanie's office currently provides the town of Richford with services related to the statewide voter registration system, election programming, and absentee ballot requirements. After reviewing the proposal to charge back costs concerning the services noted above, I found it to be well-researched and reasonable. This opinion was shared with my town board members at our August meeting. Thank you for allowing me to express my opinion on this subject at your next meeting. Sincerely, Julia Staler, Clerk, Town of Richford.
All right, now we need an approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Weddy, second by Wado to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? All right, now we need an approval of the minutes of the August 21st, 2012 meeting in Adams, Columbia public hearing. Motion by Larry Crawford.
Second.
Second by Bob Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business, let's see, bonding projects update is under new business. Are you doing?
Medical dispatch.
Oh, all right, okay, sorry, Ruth. Didn't know you were doing emergency medical dispatch.
Apparently. In your packet, there was a summary regarding the needs for the implementation of emergency medical dispatch. At the last county board meeting, you'll recall you had asked that Deb and the Public Safety Committee go back and talk about it again with the Sheriff's Department and come up with what it was going to cost in order to implement emergency medical dispatch. As you're all aware, we had previously purchased the software for emergency medical dispatch, and with that we also purchased some trainers to come in and do the initial training. Part of the costs that were not part of the budget were the staff time to actually do the training and the ongoing maintenance for the software as well as the ongoing training costs. At the public safety meeting, we actually had quite a long discussion about how this could be implemented and done within a reasonable time frame. At the conclusion of that meeting, the results were what you see in this summary. According to what the sheriff had presented at that meeting, he indicated that in order to do this and to continue to do it as well as do all of the other tasks that the dispatchers are currently doing, including dictation and other things, he is requesting that you consider adding 2 additional dispatchers to the staff so that there would be additional help, so that while people are doing this and doing the training, the other work that needs to be done continues to get completed on a timely basis. He's also asking that the dispatch center itself be reconfigured so it can better handle the walk-in traffic to the Sheriff's Department. That currently is not being done by dispatch. They are unable to handle the walk-in traffic right now, and so that's what the reconfiguration is to do the walk-in traffic. The maintenance fee for the program that we had previously purchased is about $2,200 per year. So that is an ongoing cost that if we do this, we will need to budget for that maintenance cost. So we did talk about that. That's the cost proposal that for this year, for 2013, it would be at $247,000. And then $162,000 approximately each year thereafter, along with wage increases. We also talked a little bit about when this could reasonably be implemented. Right now we're in the process of switching over to narrowband, which we'll talk a little bit in the bond report, but that is scheduled to start taking place next week. The 911 upgrade is going to take place in October. So there still are a few issues with the phones that we're trying to work through. We're upgrading all of the radios and the dispatch equipment right now to meet narrowbanding. So realistically, you're looking at a few months down the road before we could take on another project. But that's what information came out at the public safety meeting. Separate.
I assume these dispatchers would be permanent then?
Yes.
I might add that we asked the sheriff, or I asked the sheriff what it would take, you know, as far as training was concerned, if we could come up with the money for the training, because that was the first stumbling block. He didn't, you know, he couldn't do the training, he didn't have money for the training, and I asked him, you know, asked him to give me a dollar amount, and he didn't, and then he came up with this, that he had to have 2 new dispatchers and a remodel, you know, but he didn't come up with that till after. I think, would it be appropriate to have a committee that looks into dispatch and just exactly, you know, maybe it's no longer feasible to keep it with the sheriff's, you know, because that could be, you know, by itself, a committee by itself.
But I guess that one of the other things that we did talk about a little bit at public safety and is going back to public safety at their next meeting is regional dispatch with Green Lake and Marquette County. It is something that we had talked about in the past and had not gotten very far on. In speaking with Sheriff Peterson, he indicated that he has met with both sheriffs from the other counties, and they are both willing to sit down and look at it and discuss it. If that is a feasible option, we would of course have to work out the logistics with that. It may mean that we don't have to particularly add staff, that maybe we would be able to do some of that with some of the other county staff. And so there is that possibility. We will be talking about that at the next public safety meeting to see if the committee is agreeable to doing further study on whether that issue is feasible for Waushara County to run the dispatch more efficiently, as well as to some cost savings.
How much longer is this going to take, or is this going to add on as far as a time thing, rather than just throwing money at it tonight as such? That young lady got her point across pretty well to me anyway, as far as trying to get this done as soon as we can.
Well, certainly if you're serious about looking into regional dispatch, there are a lot of things that need to be considered into that. You don't want to just say we're going to do it. Maybe it's not even cost effective. So if that is a situation that you're going to want to do, that is going to add on to time. If we do the proposal that the sheriff had talked about at the last public safety meeting, and authorize him to hire additional staff, that certainly could be implemented much faster than doing a study on whether or not regionalization is cost effective and efficient.
Thank you.
Yes, Joe.
I got a question for Deborah, who committee. In the bonding, didn't we put money in there to remodel the
No, we
dispatch
did not.
center? I thought we were putting 80,000.
No, there wasn't money for that. That was not one of the projects that was
The
approved.
second thing is for public access. Would it be feasible to put a secretary type person in the sheriff's department, not per se a trained dispatcher, to handle the public during daytime hours and back in that front office, instead of going through the dispatcher project? Because the dispatcher can't dispatch and handle the public at the same time. I mean, Green Lake County has a guy sitting at the front desk to meet the people. I happened to be there a month ago, and I sat and talked to him for 10 minutes or so. But I guess there's a lot of options out there. I don't agree with this, because I think that we're throwing money at a bad thing. That if we don't get it right the first time, then we'll say, well, this is what you guys wanted to do. I don't think that's what we really want to do.
We did talk about the option of one additional dispatcher and a secretary, if that would be feasible. I see that Sheriff Peterson has joined us, so if I am misstating what he says, he certainly can correct me. But it is my recollection from the meeting that when we talked about that option, given the other responsibilities that the dispatchers are currently doing, and what the secretary would be able to do while meeting the needs of the public walking in, he believed that the money would be better spent having 2 additional dispatchers, that it would make it run more efficiently, and we would get a bigger bang for our buck.
I think it really needs to be studied out before we go ahead and authorize this kind of expenditures. It's my opinion. So.
Yeah, this is all new. This just came this month. Before it was a matter of having the money to do the training of the dispatchers that we have, and we were kind of going to look to see if we could find the money to train the dispatchers, but then this came up with the 2 dispatchers and reconfiguration. So I think we need to have a separate committee that studies this and, you know, looks into some options that we have, because we could regionalize, we could leave it as is and do this, or we could remove dispatch from the sheriff's department and either make it a department of its own or look at options of what we could do and see if it's cost effective, if any of those options are cost effective. Yes, Dennis?
When you're talking about removing dispatch from the sheriff's department, you mean totally, or just the emergency medical dispatch portion of it, the 911 BART or whatever?
Totally. You know, it would remain where it is, but
Sure, but
someone else would be
another
doing it.
department, a separate department?
Yes. And this would just be a study to see which was the most feasible.
I think another thing that was mentioned at the meeting is that perhaps we could contract with a different county to do the medical dispatch. Just do that part of it. If there's, the technology is capable of doing that, maybe that would be a possibility.
And we do have the program that has been purchased because it was part of the bonding. The $2,200, the maintenance on it was already due because it was purchased a while ago, and they did waive. I understand they waived the $2,200 for this year, but yeah.
Well, my feeling is it's definitely necessary that we have this. I think if it saves lives, it would save lives, it saves time, it would give the ambulance staff a better indication of what's going on, and some things could be, started beforehand. I really think would be a great service to the taxpayers of our county if we can find a way to do it. If we've already got the software and all that sort of thing in place, what about going ahead and getting the training accomplished? And what would it cost us to do the training? That's not listed here separately that I can see.
No, it's not. It's not. That was a question we asked too, how much it would cost, but we don't have an answer. So,
I think either way, we need to get the training done if we're going to do it. And we got money invested in it. I think we should get the training done and worry about the remodels and the more people later. I think we really got to keep moving on it, because if we don't, it's going to be another year. And they promised it's going to be June of this year.
anyone else have any questions or comments? Yes.
What would be your timeline if you were to appoint another committee, subcommittee or whatever, to look into this thing?
I would think it could be accomplished by November 1st, don't you?
To have the committee up and running, or just
No, to have the whole study
it done.
completed.
to have it done? Possibly. Depends how far. It depends how far you want to go. It depends what you really want to study. If you're just studying implementation of the EMD, perhaps that could be done fast. If you're studying regionalization, I believe counties have hired consultants to do that and spent a lot of money, studying that.
You're looking at regionalization, you're looking at possibly subcontracting this to another county or whatever.
Well, I'm just wondering if you could do that
They're all ideas.
in lieu of some of these other things you're talking about with technology the way it is. Perhaps there's a way to transfer that call to a department that does provide that service. And again, none of this has been researched, so I'm not sure if that's even possible.
Now, Green Lake Deb and I talked to the sheriff and the county board chair from Green Lake, and they are implementing the emergency medical dispatch. So I think they got a grant, and they were ready to go, or as soon as they get everything purchased, they're going to be ready to go and train and get it up and running. So
It would be cheaper to work with that county than work alone, though.
Perhaps that is, and again, with the technology, that's your biggest investment, and so that's the biggest question: is what is the upfront cost of regionalization?
Can someone tell us just exactly how many hours you're talking as far as training, and whether if you're training dispatchers, whether they'll be training, they won't be able to be used by the sheriff's department or being used as dispatchers. Do we need more people while we're doing the training?
Initial training requirements are 24 hours per dispatcher, and then there's an ongoing training requirement, and I don't know if that's every year or every 2 years, but I think that's another 12 hours.
Okay, I'm just thinking the initial and.
The initial is 24 hours per each dispatcher.
And that is done on site. They don't have to travel to do that.
So we've already paid for the training, we just haven't paid for the hourly wage that we'll have to pay the dispatchers while they're being trained.
And this will probably be overtime to do it.
Probably.
Some of it certainly will, because we'll also have to backfill those shifts, because the dispatch center, of course, will have to continue running while there are people training.
Donna, did you or Deb, Green Lake, did they have to put more people on? Do you know? Did you ask that?
They're set up differently than we are. They have ward clerks so their dispatchers aren't necessarily doing dictation and things like that. So they are set up differently than us already, but he did not mention adding any more staff.
So what's your pleasure?
I would suggest, agree with setting up a committee to study it, and just as quick as we can.
Okay. Let's see. Volunteers? Okay, we'll get some volunteers. Pat King, Joe Piaski, Bob Jones, Mark Kirschner.
You've got some to pick from this way.
Yeah.
You got a bunch
So
to pick from.
what's the number, Ruth? What's the magic number before it's a problem?
3, right?
Well, there's 11 of you, so it has to be less than 5 or less.
All right.
Okay. Should we just take the names and decide it another time, or should we just, you want to decide tonight?
I would think it'd be the chair's appointment
Yeah,
to the committee.
Yep.
All right. Okay, let's put Joe and Mark, myself, Dennis, and Bob Jones. It's 5. That's kosher. And thank you, Pat.
Well, no, it's not kosher.
You have to remove one.
Well, you are now a majority of the Public Safety Committee.
You said 5 or less. So, public safety.
Public
committee.
safety. And so
Okay.
then, since this is technically still a public safety realm and you're a subcommittee of public safety, you now make a quorum of public safety, and that is not kosher.
Okay, I'll take Mark off. Okay. Anything else to add? I think we'll keep it at 4 to keep Ruth happy. All right, we'll go on to charging back municipalities for election costs. Everett.
We had a town board meeting, and our clerk explained to us that everything that Melanie was asking for is in state statutes. She felt that we should be paying for it already. At that time, at the last meeting, I felt I had a conflict of interest, since our town agrees that this is an expense that we should be paying. I no longer have a conflict of interest, so, and she wanted to be sure that everybody knew that I could use her name and say that she agreed with us.
Anyone else have any?
I feel that this is a burden on all the townships. And I think, like Jerry said, I think paying half, if we pay half and they pay half this year, just to see how it looks. That'd be the way to,
Bob?
I went to the meeting of the town of Leon, and they kind of accepted the fact that it's coming down the pike. And it was their reluctant general consensus that it would be the fairest would be to split it. Everett had brought it up last month, and I think that's a pretty fair idea. Sharing it 50-50.
Are you considering that as a starting point then, and then to eventually have the township pay it all, or 50-50 forever?
Well, the county pays half, and the other half is prorated among the townships and towns.
Okay, so you're not talking about a phase-in, you're just, that's what you think
Yep.
we should have, okay.
And I did talk to the administrative coordinator from the city, and he felt that it was a good point that Melanie made, that they're paying twice because they do their own, and they're being taxed as well. So that was his point. Yes.
I guess I also have to say that I got a letter from the town of Rose, who I also represent, part of the town, and they do not agree with paying it. So I have to be fair to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, Larry.
Yeah, I represent Oasis and the other part of Rose, and they are against it.
Anyone else have anything to add?
What's that?
Nothing more to add? Okay. Then we'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we adopt this by have the county pay half and the towns pay half. If she gets a bill, she just should reimburse, she should just bill the county for their share.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to split the costs with the townships. Is there any further discussion on that?
I have another question. I'm sorry. This isn't retroactive, is it? Or is it?
You need to put that in your motion so that it would, when do you want it to start with 2013 budget year? Would that be fair? Like to say which year it should
I'd
start?
also like
or-
more clarification on what I'm paying half and half for.
So, can you work off of this to determine that, or?
Fees that you listed here?
Maybe you have to explain to
Yes,
them
right.
which things are the costs that you would say split, and which are the things you could say
Wouldn't it be just
can't
50%
split.
of what the suggestion was for each town? Is that what your motion
That
is?
won't work
Burn it down.
if you just cut the 320 in half and split it put it where you think it should go?
Are you waiting for Melanie to answer your question?
I'm not really sure where this is going because we aren't required to pay for any of this, so I'm just kind of at a loss here.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We need a voice vote, Mel.
Probably, huh?
Probably should.
Starting with Mr. Eckstein.
Lucky you.
Aye.
Mr. Weddy.
No.
Mrs. Colada.
No.
Mr. King.
No.
Mr. Wadel.
Yes.
Mr. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
No.
Mrs. Krentz.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Piaski.
No.
5 ayes and 5 nays.
All right.
But we can entertain another motion. All right. Do we have another motion? All right, now what, Ruth?
Joel?
Oh, Joey.
I'll make a motion to go along with the proposal that was presented to us here,
Okay.
as
but-
presented to us.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Get it back up for discussion.
What was the motion?
Same as what was presented to us.
What's on the sheet here?
I'll second that.
You're going to second that? Okay, we have a motion, a second. Now, do we have any further discussion?
I'm not sure I understand what we're talking about.
The towns would pay the full amount on the sheet, correct?
This
Yeah,
sheet in
I
front of
provided 2 sheets, one
Okay.
for 2013 where there'd be
Gotcha.
2 elections and one for 2014 where there'll be 4.
I guess starting first of the year.
Starting the first of the
January
year.
1st.
Starting 2013.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Can I hear the motion exactly?
Supervisor Piaski made a motion to charge back the fees as presented in your packets. I don't know how to,
Starting in 13.
starting in 2013.
Which would be the full amount of what's on this packet. Okay, we have a motion, a second. Let's have a voice vote again.
Okay, this time starting with Mr. Weddy.
Aye.
Mrs. Collada.
Aye.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr. Wadel.
No.
Mr. Crawford.
No.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mrs. Krantz. Mr. Jones.
No.
Mr. Piaski.
Yes.
Mr. Eckstein.
Aye.
6 ayes, 4 noes.
All right, let's go on to the compensation study for non-union, non-elected positions.
Actually, this item, we will pull this from the agenda for tonight. I think some of you have probably seen the news. There is this is all kind of up in the air right now. A judge has made a decision as of Friday. The state is appealing that decision. And so we felt it was more prudent to just hold off making any other changes to personnel and staffing at this point in time. So we will pull this from the agenda.
Now we're going to go to new business and reports and bonding project update.
Well, the construction is done, and Human Services has moved over here to the courthouse. The locks for the holding cell door will arrive October 1st. The jail inspector will be here October 18th. The elevator will be shut down beginning tomorrow. It could be down for as much as 45 days. So please keep that in mind as you're scheduling your meetings, that the elevator will not be available. An appraisal has been completed on the South Annex, and the executive committee made a decision to list that property for sale for $70,000. Bids are due by September 26th, and the executive committee will review any bids received at its next meeting. If anyone has any questions about that, they're to contact Elaine Whale, the treasurer, and Randy Grams will then arrange for a tour of anybody who is interested. The tower projects, we've begun reprogramming the law enforcement radios and dispatch consoles. As I mentioned earlier, the cutover to narrowband is set to start September 24th. The fire department radios also will be reprogrammed prior to cutover, and highway after the cutover. We also will be moving the backup radio system into the new security office downstairs. The next generation 911 will be installed sometime in October. As far as Spillman, the e-referral policy and procedures are being worked on, and then they'll have to be tested. I'm not sure about the mobile units or if the other glitch was fixed. Lieutenant Nett is currently out of the office, but that's what we have this month.
All right, we have a presentation on heroin awareness. Director Glenn Johnson, Human Services, Kevin Meehan, Health Department, and Sheriff Peterson.
Good evening, everybody. I think everybody knows me, Glenn Johnson, Department of Human Services. Kevin Meehan from Public Health. Everybody knows Dave Peterson. You'll recall many months ago there were notices in the paper, and there was articles in the paper about the heroin issue in Waushara County. David's office, Randy, and others had contacted us months ago. So we all got together and decided we would put together a training to do in the public for the town hall meetings regarding the heroin epidemic or issue within Waushara County, of which we did under the umbrella of, you'll recall, 6 years ago when we did the Drug Endangered Children Alliance for meth, and we kind of paralleled that experience with this one by putting together a PowerPoint, and the backdrop is a short PBS video. So what we decided decided was we'd like to present this to the board tonight. It's very similar and consistent to the ones we presented throughout the county town hall meetings. And then you have one handout on your desk already. We'll hand out the others that you can take along with you. And we'll entertain questions. David may have a few comments. We also have Elaine here. Carol Ann Yeska from our department is a child protective service worker who has been very involved in the process as well with our deck team, but also when we have been involved with kids that are in the homes. Carol Ann does a great job with that. So. Kevin Meehan.
Good evening. What we're going to run here first is a PBS special that highlighted the heroin problem in the southern part of Wisconsin, but really something that runs consistently throughout the state. And this will just kind of set the backdrop, and then the PowerPoint presentation that I'll give is in regards to the problem here in Waushara County.
We begin this week with our continuing coverage on heroin use in Wisconsin. It's spiked nearly 400% during the past 5 years, leaving law enforcement on the run and lives shattered. In Wisconsin, reporter Frederica Freiberg shows you how legal drugs used illegally are fueling heroin demand across the state and in Rock County.
42, 43, I'll be off at 47.
Sergeant Jay Wood traverses the interstates one recent summer evening as part of Rock County's new inclusion in a federally designated high-intensity drug trafficking area.
Search did not find anything.
Part of the effort to stop the movement of narcotics, particularly heroin, into the area.
I think the community needs reassurance that we're doing something out there. This is a serious problem, and we've got deputies out here that are concerned about interdiction as far as trying what we can do to stop it.
445 traffic. Off the highway and in town, agents search a car, finding evidence of heroin. The location, a Janesville trailer park where police say a vacant mobile home is used as a place to do heroin.
So she basically went there and shot up at the trailer. This is the remnants of what's called the gem pack. This was found in the car. She is a known heroin user.
Among those on this investigation, Deputy Chuck Bain. He's worked narcotics for more than 30 years, but has special insight into the growing problem of heroin.
I think I first became aware of it 5 years ago with it being in my home. My stepdaughter started starting off with Oxycontin, snorting it, and that progressed into heroin usage.
Bain says the drug has infiltrated all walks, from urban and rural to professionals, even school kids.
We don't quite have the manpower, and how can you answer manpower when jobs are out of the county and you don't have the tax base? We're not even keeping abreast with it in my determination. It's beyond us right now.
I've been around a long time, and I've been doing this for many years, and one thing is pretty clear to me is that law enforcement's not the answer. From a law enforcement standpoint, again, we have to be very aggressive to put the bad guys in jail, but the real key to stop this is there's a generation that's lost. To make them aware of how devastating it is to use narcotics of any type.
I was so scared of needles, like growing up, and I snorted it and snorted it and snorted it, and then
Adam has been clean for nearly 3 years, but he began snorting heroin after starting with oxycodone pain prescriptions pilfered from medicine cabinets. His addiction dovetailed with the entry of a new pure heroin on the market.
About 10 years ago, many of the Mexican and South American trafficking groups made a conscious market effort to increase the amount of heroin in the market, and they did that by increasing the purity levels. And by doing that, you're able to snort the heroin as opposed to injecting it with a needle. So it opened up a whole new user community out there that you wouldn't traditionally see.
Authorities say often, as in Adam's case, users start with prescription pills.
What ends up happening is that as the availability of those prescription drugs diminishes, and as they have a more difficult time to get it, it's much easier to get heroin. And heroin is actually fairly inexpensive.
As cheap as $10 a dose. And so drug enforcers are facing battles on two fronts, illegal use of precursor prescription drugs, and the cheap and plentiful supply of heroin.
We have far too much prescription drugs that are being passed out, and we have far too many people that are getting pain medication that maybe could use something else. And we as citizens need to do a better job of controlling our prescription drugs.
Is your back still hurting you?
Yeah, it really hurts. I just picked up a new prescription today.
The Wisconsin Attorney General recently started airing public service announcements, warning parents about keeping prescription opiates out of reach.
Dr. Davis, telephone.
And the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration is working with the medical community.
We don't tell doctors how to practice medicine, but we try to raise their awareness level of some of the prescription abuse that's going on out there. And currently, there's estimated 7 million prescription drug abusers out there, which is more than the heroin, cocaine, and other drugs combined.
To combat this, the state legislature approved a bill that the governor has signed into law that tracks prescriptions for opiate painkillers, a new law that aims to deter doctors from overprescribing and patients from doctor shopping to get the drugs. But the street price of prescription pills is way higher than heroin, encouraging the drug spread across the state.
There's an increase in availability and demand because it's economics, that competition forces the price down.
I remember the first time I snorted heroin, I knew that I was in trouble, because it took away all the pain that I ever knew in my life.
And yet Adam will never forget the pain heroin itself caused.
I was in and out of consciousness.
Including nearly dying twice of an overdose. That pain, that hole, is what keeps enforcers like Deputy Chuck Bain working against the odds to stem the flow of heroin in his community.
How can you die, pretty much, and get brought back by medical teams and still go back to use it?
Do it again.
That's the control this drug has on people. That's why I hate it so much. I hate heroin.
If you'd like to see part 1 of Frederica Freiberg's series on heroin in Wisconsin, just go to our website, wpt.org, and click on In Wisconsin.
This presentation that I put together, it's going to start out with a little bit of education about what heroin is, how it's made, that sort of thing, and how it's grown in its usage here in Wisconsin. Heroin's a highly addictive drug that is a derivative of morphine. It's a downer, a central nervous system depressant, and what it does is it interferes with the brain's ability to perceive pain. As you saw in that video, heroin now can be smoked, snorted, or injected, and the drug cartels in Mexico and in Colombia did make a concerted effort to enlarge the market and open it up, and they did that by purifying the heroin. But what happens with the user is they begin to get a tolerance for the drug, and so eventually they all go to injection because of the intensity of the high. The heroin's easily hidden. It hits the street in small, tiny little packages, easy for distribution. The user heats up the drug in a spoon. That's their paraphernalia. They add a little water to it, and then when it's liquefied, they draw it up into the syringe and inject it. Some of the side effects, or the short-term side effects, that the user feels is a sense of euphoria. They call it a rush. It's accompanied by other central nervous system reactions. That's warm flushing in the skin, a dry mouth, heavy extremities. Following the initial euphoria, the user goes on the nod. That's where their eyes will close and their head will bounce up and down, and then they'll come in and out of consciousness. The mental functioning becomes clouded due to the depression of the central nervous system. Other effects include slowed and slurred speech and a slow gait, which is walking slowly. Some telltale signs. I also work in an ER and in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, and pinpoint pupils are one indication of somebody using heroin or opioid. When the pupils are really, really dilated, that would be an indication that somebody's using an amphetamine like Adderall, Ritalin, that sort of thing. The picture on the upper right-hand side is Amy Winehouse, a rock star or pop star, who died a year ago. She was 27 years old. Great talent. She became a user of heroin about 3 years before her death. Some of the other signs and symptoms of a user is constipation, nausea, vomiting. The individual gets constipated due to the slowing down of the large intestine, which draws out too much moisture. And overdoses occur because heroin, like morphine, is a central nervous system depressant. And what it does is it paralyzes the muscles of inspiration and expiration. Those are the muscles in between your rib cage, which control your breathing. And what happens is that the user stops breathing and dies, respiratory arrest. And as law enforcement will tell you, it's really difficult now to combat this because the numbers of users are growing so very rapidly. It's also complicated by users who buy more of the heroin to sell in order to support their own addiction. They try to make money off of it and get their heroin for cheap. Who's becoming addicted to heroin? Typically, we've seen young men between 18 and 25, but more and more today, we're seeing young white females becoming users and traffickers. And as you saw in that other video, it's true. Officials point to the painkillers like Oxycontin, oxycodone, and Vicodin as gateway drugs to heroin use. For minors, these prescription painkillers are easier to obtain than alcohol or marijuana. They rob grandma and grandpa's medicine cabinet and go into ERs, that sort of thing, fake pain visits, and get prescription painkillers prescribed to them. Back in January, the State Council on Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse reported that 25% of high school children admitted to using prescription painkillers to get high. And make no mistake about it, prescription opioids are very, very addictive. Not quite as addictive as heroin, but if you're beginning to use them because you enjoy the high 4, 5, 6 times, heroin likely once or twice, and then you're hooked. And abusers of prescription painkillers make the switch when, as in that other video, they learn that heroin's cheaper. They can snort it and get the same high for a lot less money. Unfortunately, some of the methadone clinics now over in the Wausau area are reporting that the new addicts are just going straight to using heroin and bypassing the prescription opioids altogether. And unfortunately, we've been probably having a little bit of influence on this. We do a drug take-back. There's another one on the 29th of September where we invite the community across our county and across the country. This is a national effort to bring in your prescription, unused prescription medications, which include opioids. Our last one, David, I think was in May, and we collected 187 pounds of unused prescriptions, and over 12 pounds of it was the prescription opioids, and that's taken all of those tiny little pills out of the packets and then weighing those up. So it's a significant amount. We do it several times a year, and we do collect about that every time. One of the other complicating factors of why we're seeing a uptick in the use of heroin is that there's no longer the real social stigma of the back alley junkie among the younger age group. They have heroes, rock stars, movie stars that are openly using it. They make fun, like Saturday Night Live. Lindsay Lohan in the lower left-hand picture there, she got out of rehab again, and they had her on Saturday Night Live and had a big joke and yuck about it. Morton Downey Jr. on the left there, heroin addict. Keith Richards on the right, heroin addict. He's been in recovery for a long time. And Peter Doherty, I mean, these are just a few. Peter Doherty's a pop singer in England. And then Amy Winehouse in the middle there. And on the left is kind of an after her body type after she started using. On the right was prior to her using. And these dealers are kind of tricky too. They know how to get a customer. They'll give free hits of heroin, first couple, to a new potential user, and then they have a customer forever, and then they got to buy from them. One of the other things we're seeing, I was at the State Prevention Council meeting down in Wisconsin Dells this year and was talking to the state epidemiologist about hepatitis C, which is a liver disease that's common, or not necessarily common, but is transferable mostly through IV drug use. And we're seeing large clusters that are appearing in Oneida, Lincoln, Langlade, Marathon, Wood, Portage County, and over in Manitowoc County. This is a disease that these people are 30 years or younger. Go ahead, Dave, you can switch to the next one. In those northern counties, there are 25 new cases in 2010, which is really quite an uptick. And if you look in that bottom of the cluster demographics, 15 of those were female, 10 of those were male, 22 white, 2 non-white, and 1 unknown. It gets even worse over in Manitowoc County. Look at 2011 over in Manitowoc County, 65 new cases. Here in Waushara County, I had one new case this year, somebody under 30 years old. In July, we had 4 new cases. And this is another sort of scary part. The CDC has done analysis of these hepatitis C clusters. They're very interested in what's going on here in Wisconsin. None of the genotypes matched. If you know what that is, they do a DNA analysis of every one of those hepatitis C cases, and if they were all from a common source, they would all match and be the same genotype. None of these matched, which means it's really a lot more widespread. It's coming from everywhere. Why are we seeing it here in Waushara County? Well, we're seeing it all the way across the state, but if you can kind of make out that map on the left there, Highway 3951 goes right up along our western border. They just pop off right there. On our right border is Winnebago County. They have a very high incidence of heroin use. Let me see, it was 2011. They had 25 overdose deaths in Winnebago County. I talked to their health officer, and by June of this year, they already had 32. So they were looking at doubling. In the last 6 months, I've got to change this number. We've had actually 4 deaths in Waushara County due to heroin overdose. And we've had 14 pediatric overdose transports. That's individuals under 18. These numbers can be a little bit misleading because when they're dispatched out, the case will get labeled as an overdose as opposed to a P&B, pulseless non-breathing, or LOC, which is lack of consciousness, or respiratory arrest, or cardiac arrest, and that's just the way they're stuck. You'd really have to go into the medical examiner's office and look at all the toxicology and all that to really filter through and find out exactly how many we have. The narcotics agents report that it's the upper middle class kids that are becoming users because they have the financial resources to start. I was at that same prevention council. I went to the HIV/AIDS needle take-back program informational session, and then I talked to the head of the state who runs that program, and he did indicate, he said most of the needle exchange programs are seeing white urban and suburban kids and rural kids coming in, kids I'm meaning up to like 30, 35 years of age. They're the main users of that service now. In 2011, they've passed the 1 million mark. No, excuse me. In 2010, they passed the 1 million mark of needle exchanges. In 2011, it was 1.5 million. a huge increase in 1 year. We're also seeing around the county a lot of break-ins, thefts, people stealing anything from purses to power tools, couches, sofas, lamps, anything to sell in order to supply their addiction and support their addiction. Heroin is an epidemic. We have 4 deaths here in this county. If we had 4 deaths due to influenza, the feds would be all over us. It's causing crime, it's causing motor vehicle accidents, spreading disease, and it's devastating the families of addicts. I've had families contact me after these presentations or interviews in the paper or on television, have since become friends with a couple who are in their 70s. They came and spoke at one of the presentations. They've lost 2 sons to it. And they were not ne'er-do-well. They had a very going business in West Bend. They had a commercial painting business where they painted hotels and big apartment complexes. And one of them, John, had ultimately committed suicide because he had gone into rehab, came back, thought he was okay, and started using again, and was so disappointed in himself that he shot himself in a parking lot next to his parents' house. And the other son, David, he had lost everything, lost the business, and he was 47 when this happened. And this is about 18 months ago. Had lost everything, was riding around with some friends and other users in the car, and had shot up, and he was not breathing for 10 minutes before they realized it. It was his car. They rolled him out onto the street and took off. So it's desperate times, and it's not just the people that are ne'er-do-well, the lower echelons of society. It's hitting all walks of life. Any questions?
How does heroin compare to crystal meth in Waushara County?
Crystal meth pretty much had gotten out of here with the DEC program that came in. Actually, Glenn or Randy could probably talk to it a little bit more, address it a little bit more. We're not seeing the meth quite so much. We're seeing a lot more of the heroin.
Heroin is definitely, I can't remember last time I met one in the phone. With what we did with the meth initiative, we kind of took care of the problems that we had. People saw what the sentences that they were getting, and they didn't, the heroin is so much cheaper, it's easier to get, so heroin is definitely a problem.
When we started our DEC team around the meth problem, meth was just coming. The Drug Task Force unit, we've been hearing about heroin for the last couple of years, and we're really, in comparison to dealing with the meth problem, dealing with the heroin problem, we're behind the curve. We're behind the 8 ball. We didn't get started soon enough. And by not getting started soon enough, we're going to a bigger hill of this line. And I think part of the problem, that I personally have, and maybe some people, other people my age have the same problem. When I think of a heroin junkie or a drug addict, I think about somebody that's living underneath an overpass in some big city, who's homeless. Nobody really cares other than the other homeless people that they happen to be hanging around with. And something happens to him, he dies, and there is no big wait, no visitation, no funeral. That's kind of what my personal idea of a heroin addict or junkie was. And I think we need to get away from that. I have to get away from that and say, it's not necessary.
Glenn, could you catch the lights?
Somebody's kids, somebody's parents, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's the student that's a straight F student or if it's the businessman, successful businessman in town. And if it doesn't impact us directly, it impacts every one of us indirectly, because if they're not stealing from you to support your habit, you leave your home, you're thinking about it when you're gone. And so it does impact everybody's quality of life. Back in the middle of April, when we really got started on this was when the young lady died in Red Granite. And although we've had similar cases like that, in this particular case, things that we couldn't share then, we can share now. And look, when I get, when I share too much, you just stop. Is that we knew for 30 days about her health, because she was in jail. We had a past experience with her, so we knew what some of her issues were. She died within less than 24 hours after she got out of jail. So we had a pretty good baseline. We had parents who were involved, distraught, distressed. We knew her circle of friends, and over the course of time, we had our suspicions about it. We couldn't come out and say that it was a heroin death at that time because it took 2 to 3 months before we get the toxicology back from the pathologist. But we felt strongly enough about it that we were going to go ahead and without saying it, we were going to start talking about heroin. Like any investigation of this magnitude, now that there are 8 people arrested, not all of them are arrested for having any association with that death, but during the investigation we find other people that are using, other people that are distributing. We had we found a case here of near death where the friends dropped him off, thank goodness, at B&H, and they brought him back from the death. And as hard as it is for me and you to understand that if you were that close, I think I'd be believing in something besides heroin at that point in time in my life. We went and interviewed him, and he as much as told us to go pound sand. I lied. Was not very helpful. We have another case that we're still investigating. It might result in evidence on another death. And there will be more arrests, which was all initiated by that girl who died in their granite. About 2 weeks ago, her mom came in and picked up her purse. I'm worried about her mom, I really am. Because when she walked out of my office with that young lady's purse in her hand, she was clutching it like it was her child. That's a woman who we're hopeful is going to reach out and get some help, and we're trying. Okay? We're really trying to be the three-headed monster, I guess, if you will. And maybe I'm the one-headed monster, because you know what? If you don't clean up your act, just like we said with meth, the last thing I want you to see is the welcome to Sheriff County sign in years and years. Go someplace else. But with public health and the education part of it, we want to make people aware. We want to make people aware of what they're looking at, that they're hooked on. With human services, if you or I have an issue with heroin or any other addiction, we want to be there to help those people. So we're kind of a three-headed monster.
Just some of these handouts that passed out there, or Glenn passed out, the colored pictures, those are Amy Winehouse. This is part of a new presentation, just to tell you where we're going with this, into the schools. I'm doing a presentation where I'm going into all the health classes in the high schools and trying to get every student out there in a class and have it targeted. Part of this presentation will be in it, but part of it's going to be targeted towards the kids using the images of people that have been addicted to heroin and really try and move them in a way to keep them away from even attempting it. There is another pamphlet there, a flyer, more educational information, and then there are 2 articles from the paper. One article from the paper was a professor from Platteville who was advocating for the legalization of heroin and meth in order to tax it so we could reap the benefits of that. He's a professor of philosophy, so I don't know what Checker thinking or something, but I did a rebuttal in the paper
victims that have no voice except us are the kids. And I had the opportunity today to meet two young people, full of the devil, came to the sheriff's office to visit mom, who was a social worker. And we knew that was going to be the case the day we made the arrest, and human services, Carolyn and another worker were there, and we had to take those kids. And those, I can't imagine, because those kids were living in that environment. My understanding, and talking to the kids today, they're pretty honest, is that they were with their biological dad for a while, but they don't consider him the dad because they've been with one of the mom and one of the other people who were arrested for so long. And now they've moved together and with the grandparents. And when I was talking to them, I asked about the grandparents, and she said, well, it wasn't the one that was arrested. She says, she paid her money and got out of jail. So, I mean, and these are, I don't know, Carol, how old are those kids? 7 and 9. And, you know, I don't know anything about these kids, but I've seen a lot of kids. I told the 9-year-old girl, I said, I want to do your people before, because she is wired. I don't know if it's just because she's 9 or something's going on, but she wouldn't stand still, you know, to go in, and I went in with them, the social worker, because I had made contact with the mom in jail a few weeks ago or whatever, and so I went in with them. It's a hell of a way to have to visit your mom. You know what, it's a lot better where she's living.
I'm not sure if you guys have changed it, but typically kids see their parents in jail through glass. You know, that's how we are mandated to provide a weekly visit to the parent. If that parent gets moved to Cheetah, we have to take the children there, or somebody does, once a week. We have to make a weekly visit. So here at Washera County, those kids are seeing their mom through glass, which is another trauma for those children.
The heroin epidemic, and it truly is an epidemic. It could very well touch me with, you know, somewhere in my family, it could touch any one of us. And when it hits home, and it really hit home for our department, it was hard for our department to go through some of this investigation, but a lot of us got kids and grandkids, and you see connections.
I haven't done one of the presentations in the county where somebody hasn't come up to me afterwards and said, you know, I've got a grandson or a granddaughter or family member, and that's addicted to not necessarily heroin, but the pain opioids, prescription opioids. So it really is out there. What we're trying to do is educate the public before they get started in it. From a cost analysis, what it costs the county. Working in an ER, I get people that come in there on a regular basis on a weekend. 70% of the people that are coming in for pain issues I know are drug seeking. They're not productive citizens. They can't because of the addictive process. You know, you've got to kind of just forget about what they're chasing, know that they're ill, and try not to give it to them, but at the same time, in order to cover your butt, you've got to do a $3,000 workup on them that they're never going to pay for. You and I pay for that. So,
Last comment, because I know we
The
want
whole
to.
point of coming out to the public was, we need your help. Period, end of story. We cannot do this alone. And you may have some information that may seem meaningless to you, but it might be the one piece or two pieces that we can put together that will make a difference. This heroin destroys families. And I think we got a call the other day, I think Randy talked to me, we got a call the other day from a frequent flyer at the sheriff's office in jail. Fancies himself quite a marijuana farmer. He makes no bones about it. He uses, he distributes, and he's been in and out of our jail. You know, it's a slow day, we can go get him.
Sent out of prison twice.
Yeah. And he calls Randy, because him and Randy are friends, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, he calls Randy and says, you know, Randy, you know, Hurley, you got to do something about this heroin. That's some nasty shit. That's some kill people. You know, so that's our testimony, I guess, from our
continue our mission, they're actually meeting with school kids. And we're gonna cover this PowerPoint that we put together to get their input to change it according to what these kids think will better draw the attention to their peers versus us doing it. And then we're working on a poster as well that kids are gonna help us do that we potentially can put on a billboard out by Red Granite. But we're having kids be part of the process to continue our mission of education because they know how to reach kids better than we think we can. So any other questions?
A gentleman from the Grand area called, he's got a four-way sign, he said, we can use four-way sign, we can use it both sides, it's right on Highway 21, it's close to the pavement, so he said, just put whatever, I said, I'm tired of this. Is it right by the pavement, because I get paid to look at it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Glenn?
very much. Appreciate your presentation.
Now, you informed us, you showed us, but basically just watch for it? What can we do to help?
Well, you know, you're apt to overhear more conversations out in the community than we are, because most people know we're cops, and they're a little bit more cautious around us. That's one thing. Encourage people that you think might have a problem to seek help. Encourage people to come forward, either by calling Crime Stoppers with information, or by getting hold of Sheriff's Department. You know, I guess we'd rather, and I've said this 100 times, we'd rather track down, you know, 99 leads, 99 bits of information than find out they're useless and to miss that one thing. You know, the other thing, I guess, is, you know, what you might see, typically they put it in the corner of a baggie and tear it off and tie it up. I mean, if you see some like that, spoons that are burned on the bottom. We're not, you know, we're not expecting.
One good way is talk to your children. If you have adult children, talk to your children that you've seen this. If there are other public awareness presentations going on, talk to them about it. That brochure I gave you, look in there. It gives you signs and symptoms to look for. Talk to your children, talk to your grandchildren, and they may not be doing it, but they'll say, hey, you know, I know so-and-so over here is doing it. And then the little light bulb goes off, and then you can give Sheriff Peterson's office a call, or counselor at school, that sort of thing. It's not that we're out there to, as David said, to lock everybody up. We want to get them help before they really are going too far, because it really does destroy lives. They, you know, a couple of times they get on heroin, do heroin twice, and they're going to be doing what's called chasing the dragon. They're going to be going after that initial high, that initial euphoria that they got. It's 3 times stronger than morphine. And it's one of those things that just will ruin lives. That's all they will be doing. They'll do anything they can. They won't be able to hold a job. They'll be stealing from family members, from loved ones, selling anything they can just to get the high. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Glenn and Kevin, and Dave and Randy. We appreciate the information. All right, next on the agenda, we have a presentation from Mike Konechny, the Waushara County 2011 audit.
Good evening, everybody. I believe, have you received, or do they have copies of the, there's 2 books, that we issue. Maybe just to explain a little bit. I'm with Schenck, and I've been involved in your audit for a number of years. And I work for a lot of counties in the state. I think we do 29 of them now, so I'm quite involved in county finance. And we met with the administration committee a few weeks ago. And they thought it'd be a good idea to give a briefer overview of the county's finances. I know you're all involved in the budget process, and I believe you've always got a copy of the financial statements. But, you know, there's like, 40 pages of information there. And what I'd like to do is kind of just give you an overview of what the audit findings were, and then touch on some of the highlight some of the numbers. You know, in our opinion, I've been working with Sheriff County for a number of years. Like I said, you're in very good, very solid financial condition. You generally have adequate fund balances, you know, working capital reserves, and you have very low debt. You know, up until a year ago, you had zero. Now you have your last issue. So do you have a book titled Management Communications? That's what you have. Just like to, you can follow along with me a little bit, but I'm going to paraphrase and go rather quickly through some of this. On page 1, there's like an introductory letter here, 4 pages long in this book, and it explains the audit, what we do as part of the county. We look at your state and federal programs for compliance. We also look at your internal control. Internal accounting control is your review of your systems, and that's covered in here. But this report, go to page 3 of the report.
Mike, I don't think we have the.
Oh, you don't have that? You have the financial statement?
This one, yeah. They have them at home.
Sorry. Okay, that's okay. I maybe just follow along as I talk then a little bit. The audit did not disclose any material weaknesses in internal control, and that's the best thing an auditor can say. Your systems had proper internal accounting controls. There were no missing numbers or numbers that we could not verify. There were no difficulties in doing the audit. We asked management to sign what they call a representation letter, and they signed that, and that's part of this document. So you know, as far as that, there were no significant audit findings. So you have the financial statements. Then if you want to turn to page 6 of the book, this will give you a little bit of a financial statements like this. It shows the general fund, or maybe you have the. Oh, you have a different one. You have the federal audit. Okay. All right. Sorry here. I'll get to the right thing here. I should have brought some copies along. But anyway, at the end of the year, the county had about $9.2 million in its general fund. You know, it may sound like a fairly large number, but you had about 1.6 million of that was delinquent taxes. So that's obviously not spendable. That's in people haven't paid their taxes. That number, it was up slightly from the previous year. There were about another 1.3 million that was restricted or committed for various projects or revenues that you collect that you have to spend, donation money, a lot of different things in there, about 20 different things. The unassigned money, general fund, which would be, if you're in a business, that'd be your free and clear surplus or equity, was about 6.3 million. And it was about 6.4 million a year earlier, so about a $100,000 decrease. Now, you adopted a policy on your general fund that should be 25% of your budget. Well, right now, it's about 39%. So you are about $1 million positive or more than your policy. You set a minimum level in that policy of about, I think it's about 5.3 million. And generally what that's considered, that's what you need because there's a delay in paying taxes. You know, you collect them in 2 parts. State aids come, you know, as reimbursement. So you need really a working surplus to operate a business, you know, as big as yours. But you did have a little extra cash in there, little available funds.
Before they start thinking about spending that, though,
yes. Well,
we have a $1.9 million liability in sick leave, and so we have not transferred that money yet.
Right. That was some of the talk at the committee meeting, too. And a lot of counties have done that. Fund, put money away for a future liability. Brown County I worked with for years. They've done stuff like that. There's a lot of other counties that have done Overall, your general fund's in good shape. The other major operations, you know, that I can speak of, your human service fund, that's in a separate accounting system. That had about $1.9 million in fund balance at year end, you know, but that's about a $7.5 million budget. So again, in relation to their budget, that was around 20-some% of their budget also. That was an increase from the prior year of about 200-some thousand. So that has a working surplus. There's various things in human services, I think, as you're on committees there, you know, are kind of uncontrollable. The highway fund, what they call the County Road and Bridge Fund, that pays for work on county roads, that had about $500,000 that year end, $499,000. And that again, you know, they again, of course, need a surplus in that fund for emergency winter maintenance. You know, that can fluctuate, road repairs, different projects that weren't started, you know, that carry over from one year to the next. And they have about a $3 million county road budget. So then I tell the committee, I think every year, your county highway department does not get a tax levy. You know, the work that, the way it works, your highway department is accounted for as what they call an enterprise fund, like a business operation. If they go out and do work on roads, state, county, or local, those jurisdictions are billed, and they're able to operate their county highway department without a county tax levy. Not all counties in Wisconsin are able to do that. So it means, really what it comes down to is they're getting use out of their equipment, you know, basically making purchasing decisions, so they're using the equipment they have and generating revenues to cover all their costs. So that's a very positive thing. We didn't have anything. We had a couple recommendations. We told the committee they're fairly minor. They're different things with different departments, with your community development block grant, and then some accounting for your ambulance receivables. Those are really the only two recommendations we had. I believe they both have really been implemented already, so nothing significant. So, like I said, we certainly feel Waushara County's in very good financial condition. Your borrowing limit, I don't know if you know this, but there's the state law that a government, city, county, township, can borrow up to 5% of its value, its equalized value. And just to maybe surprise you a little bit, the equalized value of Waushara County is $2.4 billion. So your limit, then 5% of that is about $124 million would be your limit on borrowing, and you have $7 million borrowed.
Again, don't get any ideas.
Yeah, get more ideas there. Yeah, a little over 5% of your limit. School districts can borrow 10%. I don't know, just if you know that. We generally don't see counties with high debt. You know, we certainly see them higher than this. Cities are more likely. Cities and villages are more likely to have 20, 30, 40, 50% of their debt. If they're growing and putting roads and sewers in, you know, they generally do. So that's all I was planning on discussing. I know you've had a long meeting already, but if you have any questions on, or on that report, that's a sort of a complicated report you have there. But on any of the other information or just anything regarding government finance, I'd be happy.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike, for coming.
We're all clapping because that was good news.
Yes.
Tom wants to stand up and take a bow, I'm sure.
Dance, at least dance.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we have a discussion and possible action item, and that's a motion to approve the 2011 Waushara County audit.
So move.
I'll second his motion.
Motion by Jones, second by Bernadette. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is consideration and possible action on the following resolutions and ordinances.
Resolution 27-9-12, resolution authorizing cancellation of outstanding checks.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the resolution.
Motion by Weddy, second by Crawford. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Resolution number 28-9-12, resolution supporting legislation requiring online-only retailers to collect and remit Wisconsin sales tax.
We have a motion. Motion by Pat. Second? Second by Bob Wadle. Any discussion?
I have a question. What defines an online-only retailer?
Those are retailers that don't have physical stores in the locations. Right now, a lot of, you'll hear about it on the news as the Amazon tax that's going to start taking place soon. Amazon notoriously sells lots and lots of goods, billions of dollars of goods a year, online only. They don't have any physical stores. And they have been sued by several different states saying that you need to start collecting sales tax for us. They were collecting, they had some offices where they had people like manning the things, and they were found that they had to collect taxes there, but they didn't have to collect tax anyplace else. This is an issue that the federal government has been working on for years, trying to simplify sales tax throughout the 50 states. Retailers are saying, how am I supposed to know who charges what tax? In Wisconsin, you have 72 counties. They can charge anywhere between 5% and 5.5%. If you go to other states, their sales tax structure is different than Wisconsin's. Like you can have a city tax, a county tax, and a state tax. So retailers were saying, this is too complicated for us to administer, so we're not going to. So right now, if you have a physical store in the state of Wisconsin, and you also sell online, you have to collect Wisconsin sales tax. If you do not have a physical store in Wisconsin, you do not. So sometimes when you're purchasing things online, you'll notice that there's no sales tax.
So if I sell my Uncle Louis gold Masonic ring on eBay, am I required to collect sales tax?
If you qualify as their definition of a retailer,
What is the definition of a retailer?
well, now you're
That was
asking
my
me
question.
technical questions that I can't answer without my statute book in front of me.
Okay. You know, the gal who, for lack of a better thing, does, instead of doing a rummage sale in her front yard, does a rummage sale online through eBay or Amazon or Waushara County Buy, Sell, and Trade, which is really a neat website. You ought to check it out on Facebook. I wonder if those people are going to get stuck having to pay sales tax.
Potentially, I suppose. I don't think that all of those things have been worked out. There isn't currently
Nah.
any uniform state law on it. But they're looking at the major retailers who are not collecting sales tax and
So-
are getting billions of dollars of revenue a year.
Again, it's the law of unintended consequences.
There's
Okay.
no law written yet. This
Okay.
is to support them with that legislation.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion? Do we? We
You had
do
a
have
motion, second.
Sorry. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. we have one opposed.
Somebody's got to rock the boat.
Absolutely. That's what you're here for, Bob. We know that.
Thank you.
Resolution number 29-9-12, resolution authorizing transfer of funds from general fund to sheriff's office budget for the purchase of 2 vehicles, one unmarked squad and one marked squad.
Deb?
Okay, well, I guess at the last public safety meeting, when we were reviewing the budget request by the sheriff's department, I believe it was over 196,000 over what had been requested for 2012. And so we were talking about some ways that we could mitigate this problem. And part of it had to do with vehicle replacement. Because they have been kept to zero for so long, they're starting to feel the effects of that in their squad cars. And I see Lieutenant Thurley is out there, and maybe I will impose on him to ask if he could respond to some of this. Sorry, Randy. They have some cars that I believe are getting fairly high in mileage and.
We used to be on a rotation where we would keep cars 3 years and cycle them out. We would do 3 marked cars a year and 1 unmarked or detective vehicle a year. And their mileages would be right around 80 to 90,000 miles so that we could get trade-in resale value on them, so that we would have expense of the vehicle, but then a revenue coming in to kind of when we started going to a zero increase, squad cars are not cheap, and we know that. We went from getting 3 marked cars and 1 unmarked car to 3 marked cars. The Fords were running about $23,000 to $24,000 a piece, brand new out of the box, and we get 3, switch them over, and we run them on the road. We started running cars instead of the 80 to 90,000. We're running them right now. I believe in our fleet we have 6 cars at 125,000 miles. We have cars right now that have over 125,000 miles on them. To the lay person, that may not seem like a lot of miles, but those miles don't include the amount of idling that they do, whether running radar out of crash scenes. Anytime you have your red lights on, you also have a camera going, you have all your electronics in your car. This afternoon I spent 2.5 hours in Red Grand at a crash scene, and my car ran the whole time. So, you know, it doesn't count on that. And mechanically, and I think Tom can speak, one of the unmarks that we're looking at wanting to get is a replacement vehicle for the sheriff. The sheriff got his brand new Chevy Impala when he became elected in 2003, and he still has that car. It has excess of 240,000 miles on it. It's really starting to nickel and dime us right now. He almost has to carry a battery pack with him because his taillights come on when they want to and they shut off when they want to. And it's really a safety hazard. For our 2013 budget, we initially put in 3 marked cars. We are going currently with the Chevy Caprices. The Chevy Caprices are made, unfortunately, in Australia, and they're running about $28,000 a throw. We priced out the Chevy Caprices and the Chevy Tahoes, and you're going to run about the same amount for a police package 2-wheel drive vehicle, but you're going to get the better gas mileage with the Caprice. And with the pursuit capabilities, we don't want to have a higher end vehicle, the higher end off the road for rollability and hybrid. We do have it's a relatively young set of officers, and they are apt to make a few mistakes. We all did. So, because of the increase in mileage and the 0% increase, we are falling behind in our exchanges. I have my squad car right now is a 2005 Trailblazer. It's got almost 119,000 miles on it. One of the other Trailblazers is the 2005. He's got 119,000 miles on it. And those vehicles we're good with. I'm not a pursuit driver. Shouldn't be a pursuit driver. Mine's not a pursuit car. Told the sheriff not a problem. But as far as patrol cars go, we need to make sure that they're safe out in the community, and mechanically sound for the officers. And I really think that at this point in time, the sheriff either needs to get a new car or replace it for one too. So that's where we're at.
Just see him on a bike.
So while we were talking about the budget, we thought that we would come here today and ask for 2 cars to be purchased out of general fund today, and then there would be an additional 2 cars still left in the budget instead of having all 4 in the 2013 budget.
And by doing that, and you know, there's no real quick fix. By doing that, we still fall behind in
Lieutenant Nett's car with the SUV. Was that a high mileage, or did you keep that one? That navy, that blue one?
That blue one turned into the detective vehicle.
Oh, so you
So
have,
that
you
was-
still
yeah.
have that, okay.
The vehicle that we sold would have been Ron's vehicle when he retired.
Mhm.
Had the higher mileage on, he had, I don't know, I think that they built that car around him too, so. But, yeah, but that car was not roadworthy, and that's, and we replaced that vehicle with Lieutenant Nett's Tahoe.
All right, thank you.
And the reason we have Tahoes is the winter times, and in the winter time, if we're predicted to have a large snowstorm with high amounts of snow, and it happens every time we have a large snowfall, my Trailblazer, Kurt's Trailblazer, and Jeff's Trailblazers all go into patrol. They rotate into patrol, and those cars are on the road for the 24 hours, however long it takes for patrol to be able to clear the roads, for them to be able to respond to emergencies, they utilize those four-wheel drive.
Okay, any other questions of Randy? Joe?
It's not for Randy, it's for Deb. Can you explain the effect to the budget for this year and next year then?
Well, it's not really going to have any impact on the 2012 budget because what will happen is it will save you that much money in the 2013 budget.
So their budget will be lowered by that much next year?
Well, the request that they came in with can be lowered. I believe it was by $35,000 because you would be putting some of that money into taking it out of surplus now. So you're going to either take it out of surplus now or you're going to take it out of surplus in 2013. And they really could use the cars now.
I think the one that you're replacing has like 145,000 miles on it. And the thing too is that when they get up in mileage like that, then the things start going wrong with it. And, it's not cheap things that are going wrong with it, it's more expensive things that are going on. I think Randy Collada told me the other day, it's like, you might have to replace a $400 part or instead of just the normal, and they do a good job of keeping the maintenance up on them because they take them out to the highway shop but we're not talking about 145,000 miles that we drive. It's 100, yes.
Idle time, you can just about double it. That's what we figure in our maintenance.
Have any other questions? Everyone's croaking over there, but okay. Then, do we have a motion? Mark?
I'll second. Go ahead with this.
A second. Pat King will second. Any other discussion? Now's the time. We got Randy here to really grill him if you want. All right, do we need an I, no vote? Okay, and we start with Mrs. Collada, right? And I'll say aye.
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mr. Wadle,
Aye.
Mr. Crawford,
Yeah.
Mr. Kirschner,
Yes.
Pence, Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Yosky,
Aye.
Mr. Eckstein,
Aye.
Mr. Weddy.
Aye.
Carries. Okay.
Correct.
Resolution number 30-9-12, resolution authorizing the reorganization of the Department of Human Services from the current 37.5-hour work week to 40 hours a week.
Well, again, we're gonna withdraw that resolution for tonight because of the case with the judge, and we're just gonna hold off and wait and see what happens. So.
And I might add that personnel did look at this and we did pass it. So the ruling, was it yesterday?
Friday.
Friday, huh?
It happened Friday.
Friday?
So
Oh.
the judge came out with it, yeah.
That did throw a monkey wrench into all of this, so we'll bring this back another time.
Ordinance number 548, ordinance amending Washera County zoning maps pursuant to the authority granted in Chapter 58 Washera County Code, zone change, Springwater Township, Town of Springwater.
We have a motion by Joe Piaski, second by Mark Kirschner. I'm assuming this is to approve.
Yes.
All right, any discussion, any questions?
I'll answer them if there are any. We're just cleaning up some, this is a lake property. It's zoned ag. They would like it zoned residential so that they can do more with it than what they can as ag.
All right, we have a motion, a second. If there are no further questions, we'll have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance number 549, ordinance amending Washera County zoning maps pursuant to the authority granted in Chapter 58 Washera County Code, zone change, Shirley and Harry Handel III, Town of Marion.
Motion by
Second the motion.
Guido, second by Weddy. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Ethics Board appointments. Von Benz, Watoma, Karen Hansen, Pine River, James Jarvis, Watoma, Paul Miller, Hancock, and Kent Peterson, Wildwood.
Motion we adopt these.
Motion by Bernadette,
Second the motion.
second by Dennis Weddy. Are there any questions? These are the same people that served on the ethics board for a number of years, except for Karen. We had, do you remember who was it?
Harlan Butler?
Yeah, Harlan Butler said he was gonna take a break from this. And so, looking at where everyone is from here, I thought it would be nice to get someone from Concord, and Karen agreed to serve. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same side. Very good, thank you very much. Do we have any board suggestions for future agenda items? Everett?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Eckstein, second by Bob Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign.
Next month, we'll be at the Dakota Town Hall, because the elevator will be down there.
Sure to highlight that.
Well.
Some of us might.
Like it does any good to highlight anything for me. Everett?
I'll probably be lynched between now and then by the town of Rose. Or John Piaski, whoever comes first.